Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Dobbs here. It's Sunday, the 5th of April. My goodness me. So we're 2 days away from a big full moon. And really, like I say, if what's coming in now is our big kind of like is the big flyby that's coming in for April, like I say, this part of the flyby, this is the only part of the flyby. I don't know how many flybys I predicted. It must be easily 15, possibly more. All based on that simple 200 day kind of anomaly that didn't really start on the 5th of August, but that was on the 5th of August 2011. But remember, if I like if well, I mean, so many of you know my 200-day kind of like cycle that enabled me to get all of those. But like I say, the two areas, and I don't want to keep focusing on my mistakes, but I do find that when I focus a little bit more on the mistakes that I make, sometimes not in a negative way, often in those errors like the 4-day anomaly that led us to Jupiter. Not to say that was alone, because it was Steve Olsen, like I said, often mentioned that that matching the kind of image that we all seem to be getting of what we were calling the blue Kachina and everything else under the sun, and putting it over the top of sort of like over the top of Jupiter, and seeing an absolute match, and just us all just scratching our heads, absolutely scratching our heads. But I thought I'd just make a very quick video just to basically say that we've got a big full moon coming up. And I'll explain also why we've got this picture by I'm trying to remember the subscriber's name, Robert Page sent in around about the 29th, I think, of the 29th of January. And I only realized when at the end of making the video about it, when I inverted it, and I was talking about, is Eris going to come, or is it going to be Bob, is it going to be Connie? And then when we inverted it, it was just like, oh my god, it does just look like a kind of like a ballerina just dancing through the sky with flailing breasts, and kind of like and a head kind of up there made of just the sun, or whatever the main source of light. I guess that must be the sun, just up there above it all, and being her somehow, her head, if you're going to kind of incorporate the head that doesn't really exist in the image. But the reason I've got you up on that, on this image, which is exactly when I was predicting the last flyby, is that the last flyby that went by, remembering we've got the pair coming by this year. And I'm not saying that we just don't know enough about this second object, the bigger of the two. I brought it into my last. Let me just see if I can go to a new share and just come back to. Come back to, if we go over to here, maybe we can have a little look. That was the last video I made. I was going to like just come. Do you remember how in this? Remember Alex Lujan's shot on the 1st of September 2019, and we saw this. It was exactly where I was expecting it to be, and it was the wrong way round. And so I had to incorporate this into this new pathway. And so it finally meant absolute confirmation that it was all asked about foot. Basically, we were sort of like, we were realizing that our sun is orbiting planet X, and it was just so obvious. Suddenly, all this frustration of endless frustration of trying to force this all through, and that meant that this was the inner of the two, and the outer of the two over here was going to come in after. So that's why, in this point, I brought in this idea that this one comes in after, just like we saw in 2018. you know what I mean, where we had the big flyby and that I was expecting, and then suddenly the one I wasn't expecting comes in, and Kilauea goes off on the sort of like on May the 4th, 2018, and then like I say, you get the sort of the big sighting on June the 17th, 2018, and then you know Mars rover goes down, big dust storms, and then we get volcanoes going off on Mars, and we seeing the whole lineage of this thing moving out, and the kind of like, you know, or getting a potential understanding of what realistically was actually causing the dust storm on Mars, was the fact that Mars was actually getting very close again, like it did in 2016, to where Jupiter is. It wasn't as I thought in the first instance. It's a very complex thing to kind of plot out. But basically, coming back to this, where are we? Let's coming back to this image by Robert Page. If it's come up, where are we? Yeah, coming back to this image by Robert Page, we kind of like of this flyby that came in when I was predicting it to come in, of the pair that we're going to that we're going to see. We're assuming we're going to see this year. I'm assuming we're going to see this year, and we're thinking about all the way in which we've seen all the seismology of this in the past. And we've got a full moon in 2 days. And we've, you know, on the 20th of January 1939, when the big flyby for Carlos Rada's time that happened, you know, he predicted on the 24th, but the full moon was on the 20th, you know, and it's got to this point where, you know, the tsunami that came in 2018 on the around about the 28th of September 2018, and I made a video and I said, you cannot tell me oceanic anomalies are not going to occur now. Now, I'm not saying that oceanic anomalies are going to specifically occur on this next full moon, because I don't truly know, but this will be our yardstick. That's what I can tell you more than anything else, is that it's very difficult to predict this. And like I say, and because I hadn't predicted it, you know, I hadn't made a mistake, if you like, in May 2000, even though I say I made a mistake in May 2018, I just didn't see it coming in 2018, because I've been so focused on this passage that its closest perigee point to Earth is around about the 20th of January. Each time it goes past, because that's the aspect that Jupiter cuts through, the closest point that the Earth's orbital track comes to Jupiter when it goes past. When, should I say, our solar system, meaning the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, goes past the closest aspect we get to Jupiter as it orbits planet X, or planet 9, if you want to call it, or, you know, this our Sun's binary twin, which makes it a very complicated thing to explain. And so the reason I've really got you back on this right now is because many of you are going to be sort of like talking about Eris. Sorry, not Eris. I mean, this looks so much like Eris, doesn't it? You see why that pops into my head. Eris, the goddess that isn't invited to the ball. The new name of the kind of like of the new dwarf planet we're going to name as a result of all this, to keep up the grand deception of the system we're really in. And you know, yesterday I found it really tricky yesterday, because I was asked by a group of people to do a bit of a meditation, and we were going to do a meditation on this big alignment that we're all experiencing. And well, let me just, before I show you that, jump onto that alignment, let me just finish the chain of thought with where this object's going to be, because I'm going to show you by my orbital track. If I do a new share and I come to say, yeah, if we come back out to here, to Firefox, where I've got that part of the image here, So this is the flyby that we saw in the 21st, the 20th, 21st of January. This one coming in, I said that we would go by and we would come past that, and that's the Eris shot that I've just shown you, the Robert Page shot, as I predicted, going past at that point. But then we're obviously going to come round further, and then this one's coming in on this time as well. So I don't truly know. We saw June 2016 on the Brexit Day vote. Always big political stuff, big wars, big whatever on these dates, when these crossings, when we're close to, when we're having a perigee moment with one of these bodies, there's always big sort of things going on. So I didn't know if that was the rationale for it. June 2016, May 2018, April 2000 and April this year, 2020, and possibly because it's closest to the official kind of what they call the perihelion point of Jupiter, and which is the 20th of January, ironically, 2023. And we're going to get to that in a sec, because it's all just starts when you start laying this out, and I keep repeating it, hopefully it will start making a little bit more sense. But if that takes us to April 2020, where I'm possibly it might turn up, and like I say, this next full moon will only be the kind of the yardstick of how whatever kind of earthquakes and volcanoes might occur on and around that date will be a big part of our yardstick. I did tell you in my last videos that you could expect earthquakes up around the kind of the area of the kind of like near the caldera of what was it called, Mount St. Helens, in kind of like on the north west coast. And ironically, you've just had a 6.5, which is probably your largest earthquake in the sort of like since the 80s in that area. Okay, it was Yellowstone, but it's quite close. Let's face it, it was pretty close to where I'm expecting big seismic activity. So I'm not that far out. And this hasn't even hit the full moon period yet. I would have made a video at the time, but to be honest with you, when I saw the videos of it, I saw a 6.5 listed, and I saw the way the buildings were swaying and that sort of stuff, and I just couldn't match that to a 6.5. But then let's face it, it was on the earthquake was actually in the national park area, and how many buildings are around that area on the top of that caldera and all around that, I just do not know. But so it's difficult to say. But I saw it and I thought, well, I did say it. Those who follow what I'm saying, I just figured you would have clocked that and thought, Anyway, so if I run with those mechanics, also by using the June, the May, the April now as a suspected kind of like key time, considering we've got April coming up. And then we think about the perigee point, or the point of actually the most amount of earthquakes we're going to get in the seismology. That would bring us back down to April, January, February, March, April, March, which is when we expect astronomically, because of the previous cycle of Jupiter, which was obviously March 2011. If you remember, I'd taken, just to demonstrate how this all links back up to 2011 and precise Jupiter, because I'd said, look at the official, I'd taken you over, let's just do it now, just so I can be absolute new share. And we're going to just jump over to where would it be? It would be, I guess, that article there, and I look at the official the official perihelion of kind of Jupiter. The next kind of official, when Jupiter's closest to our sun, is kind of on the 20th of January 2023. I'm minus exactly 18. No, what am I talking about? 11.89 years, exactly 11.89 years, which is the exact duration of supposedly Jupiter going around our sun, in actual fact, around planet X. Takes us to the 11th of March 2011, well, the 12th, but it's basically exactly the same time, isn't it? The 11th of March 2011, exactly when Fukushima occurred. And think about that in terms of coincidence there, when we're mapping all this in, and we come to that cosmic coincidence, which was a bit of a sort of like a cosmic trigger in the you know, I mean, you can, you know, there's a lot of mathematics you've got to try and get your head around in this, you know, I mean, if I, pardon me, if I actually come back over to Firefox here, and we just go over to solar system scope here, you know, we're sort of like we're seeing where all the sort of like planets are lined up now, you know, in this big alignment. And I did this meditation the other day, or last night, because of this great alignment, you know, and everyone's saying, oh, Pluto's aligning with Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars and Earth and Venus, and I kind of see it. It is kind of a alignment. But of course, when I'm asked to do a meditation where I'm asked to incorporate Pluto, I struggle, because I'm, like I say, if I come back now to a, click back over to here, to this kind of shot here, where is it? It's this shot here, which was my model that I've developed as a result of realizing that, picture this is our sun going round and around and around, as I've talked about. I'm just in the middle of making a video actually, going round and around planet X. And every time we go past this crossing point of either Jupiter, we cross Jupiter's path here, going around planet X, our sun crosses the path of Jupiter here, and then crosses the path again, goes around planet X itself, and crosses the path of Jupiter here, then crosses the path of Saturn, and comes back round and crosses the path of Saturn. So we're all here saying, oh my goodness me, you know, we can, or let's even better, let's just do this on the 50p coin, and yeah, let's just flick over and do this on the 50p coin, the image of have I got it right up there? Sorry about this. I don't know if I've got the right image. Oh, there we go. So this is the Sir Isaac Newton image, released ironically in 2017, which is obviously when we had that big sighting and the gravitational anomaly and that sort of stuff. And I thought that was quite interesting, really. I mean, every year that this thing's been going by, obviously there's been absolutely incredible. But I just thought I'd just play a little bit more with you on these kind of like orbital mechanics, and just because we just started there back into the 2011 date. And don't forget, we had 3 nuclear reactors going to melt down there. And if we have to sweep it under the carpet to protect our whole carbon dioxide story, because like I say, also, we don't know what's going to happen in 2 days. We also have to understand that when we get this full moon, it's going to amplify whatever's out there. And it could be a little bit before, it could be a little bit after. It's going to be like a 3-day, well, kind of 1.5 day either side, 2 days kind of either side of that full moon. But pretty much around that full moon, you're going to see pretty big activity. But this kind of affects a much bigger planet, and it affects us slightly differently than the inner one that we just experienced in January, because its gravitational effects pulls much more gently, but much more powerfully, because it's so much bigger. So it has a much bigger effect on the magma. And as we get closer to it now, like I say, this is going to be our barometer, and you can see how I've done my maths to this possible understanding of this occurring. But the crust, as we can understand, you know, from my understanding of what's happened on this Earth, we had a cataclysm, as what I'm explaining, what I've brought into many of my videos about the whole thing about Mars and Earth, and where the water came from that caused the Great Flood. It came from Mars, and when it caused, the whole Pacific floor was created in one fell swoop, which I show you show evidence by the wave of magma that we can see that smashed through between Antarctica and South America. And I've shown that in many of my videos. I'm not going to just go too much into that. It's going to get really distracted. You know what my head's like when I get distracted. I can bring in some pretty far out things, but I do get a little bit lost sometimes when I like bring too much in, and I often do that. And no offense, but it's such a big thing to get your head around. But just because we're just suddenly all bringing this meditation of bringing Pluto into this big alignment, picture what it's like in the orbital mechanics of someone like myself who gets frustrated. I'll show you where I go, because we discovered Pluto in 1930. Okay, so we have, this is our sun coming all the way around here. And we maybe I should just very briefly, this is the same, this is what they put on the 50p coin, is the same thing, but maybe I should just because we've got the orbital mechanics on the other one, but you can see just here, that's our sun going up and around here. That's Saturn coming around here, and this is Jupiter coming around here. And obviously they've all got their respective moons. And you know, our sun's got its moons, and Jupiter's got its moons, and Saturn's got its moons. And this is just the big players here. These are the big 4 primary players, and the 3 primary players that orbit the big dwarf planet in the center. And so this, I would have never recognized unless I'd finally worked it out myself. And when I'd finally worked it out and I'd come up with this, and I'd realized, oh my God, it was, let me just come back to that one. Yeah. So when I'd finally worked it out and I was just like, oh my God, no way. You can imagine it's the same thing there, but I've just put it in a different fashion to try and, or just that's how I got to it, but it's the same thing. And it's just a bit more evenly broken up, so you can understand, if you like, the 4 corners of our micro universe that we experience. And so let's just think about it, where I see from a meditation, because if we go to that 1930 point, yeah, and where we discover, and we deduct well, that if we deduct from the point of Pluto, if we deduct 84 years, which is Uranus, actually we come to, is that right? 1846. Is that right? Let's just cross-check those mathematics, because we're just going to take you down this little line and just show you how they're all the same numbers. And I know I've done this, but I'm going to bring this back. I'm going to bring this back to a circular ring, if you like. So let's just go to. Sorry about my kind of like. So we come back up to Uranus is 84 years. Eris, that's a little bit confusing with the date of Eris, because we're getting confusing data there, but 1846, yeah. So let's go back to here, and yeah, so we go back, so we're going, picture the sun going round planet X like this. So sorry, Pluto would have just been discovered here, is that correct, in this cycle? Eris is here where we are now. So if we go back 84 years, we come back to the exact time, the exact year Neptune is discovered. Isn't that a bit ironic? Isn't that a bit ironic? And I'm just trying to think. If we go forward, yeah, if we, yeah, sorry about this. Sorry about my mathematics. You can see how my mind works. Like, if I actually go back from 1846, and I minus, well, let's just try it. Let's just go back to 1846, 1846 minus 248, which is Pluto's orbit. We come to 1598. Now that's kind of 1596, the first SETI B mirror was discovered at that time. Isn't that a bit, it's like 2 years out. If I go from 1890, when was it, 46, and we minus 165 years, we come to 1681. 1680 was the year of the Great Comet. 1680 was when Sir Isaac Newton was following this massive comet and making all these predictions, which led him to the understanding of gravity. You know, can you see the coincidence? In actual fact, if I go and I say, you know, if we're going to use this for, say, seismology and everything else like that, and I go 1846, 1846 plus 165 years from the point Neptune was first discovered. What date? Just to show you how, let's just double check that. I'm just gonna, you probably can't see my calculator yet, but it is exactly what I'm thinking it's gonna be. Just kind of like seismology, and just to bring us back round to that little mad loop. What date do you think that comes out on? 2011. The year 3 nuclear reactors go bang. And we throw all these most unbelievable stories at it. We're terrified of it. There's a part of us all that is terrified of this, that has to hide this. The obviousness of these orbital mechanics, the pristine accuracy of these orbital mechanics. It's, they obviously know this, and we can all see this, but we're in another story completely now, especially now, never more so than now. Anything to distract you from this. And we don't know what's going to unfold now. But this will be your yardstick. And upon this yardstick will be your barometer of what you might need to do. And what, if this is coming in now, what this great Passover might mean, and what's happened in our past. And what it is to open up a state of protection for yourself and connect to your galactic center right now. And I'm just making a video right now, if that's all right. and what it is to connect to your galactic center right now. And obviously the real reason I keep doing these orbital mechanics is because as we reconnect all our orbital mechanics, we can start, like I say, reconnecting to our galactic cores again and really power up our protection. Because remember that we actually created this great system. We actually put it all in place as the big policeman that's put in place to stop the milk going sour. And what's happened in this great subversion is this great system that we put in to stop the milk going sour. We are inadvertently being thrown under the great wheels of that system over and over and over. This system has gone by every 300 and, every 340 years, as I kind of like, I know I kind of show it in so many of my kind of videos there. Have I got it there? Oh no, that's our big kind of like, that's what I call the true Iron Curtain. That's the dividing point, the actual tear. The whole tear occurred up here, where the dimensional tear that split, where the magma all came in and split down the middle and caused the birth of a whole new age on this Earth. This was when the moon arrived. This was when the big invasive maneuver occurred, and we had a whole new. This is when the great oceans arrived. This is the time, but we're not going to spend too much time looking at that big structure there. We're just going to just look at that in terms of, because I've set the orbital, in trying to explore these orbital mechanics, I basically set the motion of Jupiter, if you like, going in the complete opposite direction. It's come out of its perihelion point, or its para-dwarfian point, to its closest point to what it orbits, and it's on its way out, as our sun is also on its way out. So they're both coming round past. Excuse me, excuse if we're overlapping here with another video that I previously did, but this quite often happens in my videos, I'm afraid, as I take you through these. So you've got two of me, my duality in full force here. But so then I've kind of overlapped the two, as you can kind of see here, and I've got the sun going. It's kind of like, if you like, I've set its angle of intention. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm setting its angle of intention. I'm showing how the two, but in reality, even though I've got them running in this direction, the sun going in this direction and Jupiter going in this direction, I'm just going to pause it there as we're setting. In reality, it's not actually going in that direction. It is going in that direction compared to, say, Jupiter. It's a really weird thing to express, but what's really happening is Jupiter is kind of going in that direction, but the sun isn't really going in that direction. This is the most obscure thing, is because the sun is not really got this super slow 340-year orbit around planet X. It has, but it's actually orbiting the Milky Way. That's its big celestial center that it's orbiting. And this is the key point that you need to start bringing into your meditations and your galactic connection to your celestial core, where you're really rooted in and what's really going on, and how to really help kind of like root in your energetic connection, if you like, your electromagnetic, or as Newton would have said, your gravitational connection. The real gravitation to your connection is like I say, your connection to the Milky Way. And that's where your big core, and of course it goes so much further than that also. It goes so many, there's so many dimensions that take you to that galactic core. But in that process, you can find an enormous gravity of purpose to be here on this planet right now, and to cope with the type of electromagnetic interference that you might be experiencing by connecting to that galactic core right now. Help you deflect some of that, invite in the help that's there for you, and offer yourself up for service to that great assistance that is coming in through that galactic connection, especially as we're very close to these different energies. Don't let too much pull you off core. You know, the great fear, if they can get you into fear right now, they can really disrupt your connection. And so much of this is about fear right now, so much of the stories that you're going to go in. And this was why I wanted to bring you back to this, obviously, was when we look at this, when we look at what it's like, how we experience the furthest two orbiting bodies of Jupiter and our sun and Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And when I finally overlaid it as a map and I'd set these two in motion, and I tried to show you what I had to show you all of the different aspects. And in this cycle, and I'll just pause it there because that pretty much does it right there. We've got the inner one and the outer one both crossing there, and obviously our sun crossing through. And this is to try and give you what this is like to have multiple cycles of Jupiter going past over a period of, say, because Jupiter's obviously going to go round planet X as our sun takes 340 years to go around planet X. Jupiter obviously takes 12 years. So as we're going past at this aspect, we can get a couple of cycles of Jupiter to come around, as we're seeing. You know, we saw the kind of like the real perihelion point of Jupiter to Mars. Sorry, no, we saw the real perigee, perihelion, whatever you call it, of Jupiter to Mars, ironically, where you know, the classic shot, we get the big plasma shot on the 14th of October 2016, the big famous Jeff B shot that he got from a webcam, which we all downloaded. Sorry, the closest, you know, the Fukushima point, the closest perihelion point of Jupiter, the official kind of point would have been, can I say it's the official point? No, because their official point would have also been again on the 20th of January, thereabouts, not 2011, because astronomically 20th of January would have been that consistent point, because technically, you know, we're not incorporating a binary twin into our Copernicus mechanics, so it's not going to be able to move, is it? It's not going to be able to vary. There's going to be a constant kind of like there's going to be a constant, pretty much perihelion point in terms of an angle point that Jupiter comes in. It has its closest point and it goes out, even in our current Copernicus system, and that's going to be a constant. But nonetheless, obviously, if we went from our perihelion point, say on the official perihelion point on the 20th of January 2023, and we go back the exact orbit of Jupiter, we obviously come back to the Fukushima. But that 11th of March 2011, that represents a previous cycle, the previous cycle to Jupiter, going round its penultimate cycle, round its cycle around planet X, when it last reached its biggest, closest point. Ironically, you know, it's so confusing, isn't it? Because really what's causing the earthquakes obviously is the twin tail object, which is obviously orbiting Jupiter. Well, I say obviously, you know, the mathematics over and over and over and over and over just come back so precisely. How many times have I taken you down these orbital mechanics and brought you back to these dates? It's so, but we have a very confusing kind of like, we have, you know, we just got to wait and see basically what's going to happen over the next 2 days. You know, and then from that we'll derive data, but if it is pretty intense, you know, it might not be June, might be June, considering the other one is consistent round to January the 20th, and you know, it's you know, ever since I began this cycle of all the different sightings, you know, just picture this, by the way, here. That was where I was starting. That was where I knew there was a thread that I was trying to go to in the original of this when I started. And of course, it was showing you the Robert Page. Was it Robert Page? Yeah, Robert Page shot on around about the 29th of January. And of course, that is now going into our night sky now. It's going off right over here. It's going right into our night sky. And it's the moon of Jupiter. You're seeing Jupiter's moon catching the light. And obviously they're just going to tell you, as every time they did it. Remember when I first started this, you know, on the 5th of August 2011, you know, and the 5th of August 2011, and you know, I never really stopped to think about it, you know, but the 5th of August 2011, where we had the kind of first sighting, and that began all my videos. And then the next sighting was, you know, they said it was Comet Elenin, didn't they? The next one, oh, you know, it's Comet Ison, and this is, you know, and the previous cycle, the first came in just when Carlos Ferrada said it would. 1999, it came in 98, Comet Halley-Bopp. Oh, and then the one before in the 80s when we saw it coming by, and we saw another, you know, exactly in the cycles of Jupiter, exactly as I've demonstrated in my previous videos, just running that cycle back from ironically what they call the official perihelion point of Jupiter in 2023 on the 20th of January, and it just kind of comes back to that same point. It's ironically, if you kind of like look at that first date of that first sighting in this new cycle, that the only one I could find going back that far, which was ironically, like I keep saying, the 5th of August 2011, and then I'd realized after a number of cycles, it keeps turning up every 200 days. After a year, like I say, I have to deduct with 4 days, and it was focusing on that error, my error that led me to that understanding. But if I minus 200 days, or the 198 days from the 5th of August 2011, well, 198 days, it basically comes to the 20th of January 2011, which is that exact perihelion point. No, that exact perigee point, not the perihelion of Jupiter, but the exact perigee point, when the inner object is a perigee to the Earth. It was that object. Or was it? No, because that's wrong, isn't it? Sorry. So no, it would have been. See, this is the kind of, it's these little tiny, these little quirky jumps that you kind of like left to think was 2011 caused by this one or this one. Can you see how that this kind of like this gap between the two can get so close that So this you know, this full moon is going to be our yardstick, basically. You know, the mathematics absolutely do not lie in this, but the final mathematics of working out this one will be, say, that would be your yardstick. I would have said that, say, the 6.5 in America, the 6.5 earthquake just gone in America would have been the yardstick. But like I say, it just didn't. It's not absolute. And, you know, the difference between what's happening now and what happened in, say, 2018, May 2018, is because where I was going with what happened with the Pacific Basin floor is the Pacific Basin floor is basically brand new. It's not that old at all. This whole great flood is just very, 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 very recent. Very recent. And the story that we're in is a complete and utter bullshit story to constantly hide that truth of our other occupants of this planet have been running this system. And this bullshit mind control that we hopefully are coming out of now. But well, I don't know really, guys. You know, that's it really. That's it. I just really bring in the help, invite the help in. Big golden rings of light around you, especially when you're feeling like you're being attacked or something. Don't go into the story of it and that sort of stuff. Open yourself to all different stories. Don't attack other people's stories. Listen to them. Allow their opinions to be valid. You know, I don't post on things like Facebook and stuff like that anymore because I haven't had enough kind of, I know I don't mean to sound nasty, but I just haven't had enough support from my own community in this to warrant me doing that. And that was painful for me. That was painful for me. Especially when you sort of like, you know, when you're sort of like, when you're kind of like, I think about the kind of like the shots, just kind of come over to my kind of videos. The kind of shots that we're seeing, you know, and the kind of flybys that I predicted with this thing. That came exactly when on schedule. This one came exactly on schedule. Oh my God, there's just so many, isn't there? You know, there's just been so many. Jeff P's epic shot of the plasma burst. That one I caught myself. That one on the 21st, was it? Day Trump's inauguration day. Massive, filled up the whole Mexican skyline. All the others, all of those I predicted. All of those back then. Do you remember all these different ones I'd predicted? You know, it's just like the orbital mechanics of this thing is this thing is Jupiter. We're all just looking at Jupiter, making a million different stories. We'll just hide this great thing here, this great thing that's coming in. The real God, the power that is really behind all of this. And so that's kind of like, you know, everything else is anyway. Thanks for coming with me for as far as you've come. For those of you who have followed this, it's, you know, we've just been charting the shape of our binary system that we live in. And, you know, my existence beyond this stage is, I feel like probably my work is done here now. I can't really add to that. You know, that we're just surrounded by a whole belief system that wants to take us in a million different ways and hide our, you know, all these different planets, you know, Uranus, Neptune, they're all just there to hide, one after the other was there to try and conceal the fact that none of these things ever were where they were meant to be. And now they're, by our Copernicus model, ironically, you know, they're all supposed to be in this great alignment because they're all exactly in the same place, because it's the same thing. Oh, why does Uranus look like exactly like Neptune? Good luck out there through this, really. Good luck out there through this. I haven't been able to make any videos because I just, you know, you've given you everything I think you probably need to know through this. Golden rings of light. You've got the right to open up your own state of protection. You have to stay in tune. Stay in tune. Follow the signs. It's the bell. Ciao.